Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Frontier podcast. Joining me today is a friend. Actually, it's a friend that I've had the opportunity to work with for a while now. We worked on Bankless Africa, and if there are two words that I can use to describe him, is that he is a relentless builder. And so I went on a little bit of a break, and then I came back, and so I reconnected with him quite recently. And during our conversation, he told me that he's now Starknet pilled, and I was like, "Wow, that's an interesting term." And so I decided to find out what being Starknet pilled is all about, and that's why we have him on the podcast today. And so, hi, welcome to the Sovereign Frontier podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, Muntala. I'm really glad to be here. And yes, I'm Starknet Field. I'm just excited about the technology and the future of scaling of Ethereum.
So, what does it mean to be Starknet pilled?
So I know again I met you during the time at Bankless, and we were heavily onto Ethereum, and in that case, I've just been looking at because there are a couple of issues with Ethereum, and there are two different types of rollup, which is like the fraud proofs and the ZK, and I was just really curious about ZK, right? And um, out of that curiosity, I found Starknet, and I found like the potential of how it can scale Ethereum like exponentially. So I just fell into that rabbit hole as as far. So I got into the rabbit hole, and I just keep finding amazing things every day in there. And yeah, I'm fully like I wake up every morning, I'm on Starknet. I'm going to bed, I'm on Starknet. So I'm like 1,000% all in on Starknet. This is what it means for me to be Starknet.
I think that's interesting. I mean, if you look at the layer two landscape, Starknet is kind of like unique in there, but even from like a user perspective, right? I used Starknet in the earlier days, and there was so much friction in terms of even getting to the chain. You had to use like a different wallet from the normal wallet that we had, and all of that. And so I think that I kind of like left that ecosystem some time ago because of all those friction. Oh, you want to say something?
I have something to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have something to add to that.
Yeah.
So I know Vitalik had this chart of like different types of blockchain. So there's type one, type two, type three, type four. So what it means is just like compatibility over performance, right? So most people are trying with like the ZK in the ZK world. So there's like ZK EVMs, and then there's like Starknet, which decided to go build things from scratch, which is a CVM. So it's like Starknet is a type 4 blockchain. What it means is that it's optimizing for performance over compatibility. So yeah, you mentioned, you have to get a new wallet, and you have to get almost everything. Even you have to learn a new language as a programmer to work on Starknet. So it's not easy. But what they were optimizing for is not compatibility, it's performance.
Okay.
Again, we have a lot of limitations on Ethereum, and this is why we want to build, solutions to scale Ethereum. So instead of like looking for ways to just fit the norm and like just be compatible, why don't we look at this problem and think about it afresh, right?
Hmm.
And then see ways we can look at all the issues there and improve it. So in this case, Stacknet is like, okay, we want to scale the performance of the blockchain. In this case, using Ethereum as the case study. And funny enough, Starknet is a scaling solution. It doesn't essentially mean that it only has to be on Ethereum. I actually working on scaling Bitcoin too, right? So it's like, yes, initial days and even till today, it doesn't use the same, type of infrastructure because it has to build everything from scratch. The wallet is different, but compared to like every other one, Starknet has native account construction. Like we can have like three-factor authentication on the wallet. It's more secure. Like in the other place, if you steal your someone's seed phrase, it's gone forever. On Starknet, there literally was a challenge where someone had a seed phrase leaked with 500 over about $500,000 on there, and like try to hack it. It's impossible. So yes, it is a bit different in infrastructure, but it comes with some benefits, and it's
Wow.
more performance and secure.
that's interesting. I guess some folks out there would argue that it's like the most technologically advanced L2 out there or scaling solution out there. And so it's very interesting that it's even trying to scale Bitcoin beyond Ethereum. So yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so we have a bit of a tradition which I kind of jumped, but let's just go back real quick, and that is for first time guests on the podcast. We like to learn a little bit about your background and essentially how you got into the Web3 space. And so let me give you the opportunity to share your experience and how you got into the Web3 space with us.
All right, thank you for this. And this is funny or interesting enough that I met you, I guess, a week after I got into the Web3 space. So I started my master's at that point in machine learning, and I was mostly curious about like the intersection of blockchain and machine learning. Like how does this work? Because I see both of them as emerging technology. I mean, one is more mature than others, but I was like, there's a lot of potential in both, and they're new. So this is some place that there's a lot of potential for growth. So I just kept like researching, and I found Bankless. This is where I met you, right? I found Bankless. I joined their Discord server, and I found you working on Starknet Africa. I did think it was
Bankless
something that
Africa
just
rather.
started then.
Yeah, Bankless Africa rather. You said
Oh, Bankless
Starknet.
Africa. I'm so stack filled that everything is
You
just
are
started
truly
Starknet.
Starknet filled,
But
sir.
yeah, so yes, it was Bankless Africa, where so I got involved in that part, and then I got into like Bankless DAO Dev Guild, learned a bit more on like technology stack that we're gonna use for building Web3 technology. Then it was Solidity and React that I got involved. I met a lot of like amazing devs from literally all over the world. Like I still talk to some of my friends from like Italy today, from like Canada. Anyways, got there, I was trying to learn like more new things compared to the others. But yeah, I got in through Bankless, got involved with the dev space, contributed to a couple of projects there, learned Solidity, React. Again, I do have a background in computer science, so I did my undergrad there. I've literally been a web developer since I was like maybe 14 years old. I was building websites in WordPress. This is how I contributed to your project and Bankless Africa, with WordPress. Then yeah, I've just been there ever since, making friends, going to conferences, and just learning and seeing what life has to offer in the Web3 space.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to your your building spirit, because we've worked closely together, and yeah, I mean the current Bankless Africa site is up. It's your handiwork, and I think that it's been a pleasure like working with you. It's been so many things that we've learned from each other, and I'm just excited about all of the new stuff that you are working on, which we'll be sharing quite soon. And so yeah, so one of the things that, or one of our major conversation today is going to center around Web3 gaming, because I know you are working on something in that regard, and so I want us to take like a general view of Web3 gaming, and then we would come and talk about your projects too. And so I have a bit of a hot take, which is a question before as we get started. So, Web3 gaming started the wrong way. Do you agree? Yes or no?
Subjective. It's a really subjective question because again, everything on its early stage, it's not perfect. It's like saying, Bankless Africa, which is, rebranded today to Sovereign Started Frontier, started the wrong way. Do I agree? I know I don't think so because it's the foundation. It's really important to know our history and appreciate where because where it started from. We're not going to be talking about Web3 gaming today. If not for the early days of how it started. Again, so I would not say it started the wrong way. It was just the beginning, and now we're here. It's like that journey of 1,000 miles, begins with a step. So that was a step that it started with. I do not believe was the wrong way. Apologies for the noise, but no, I do not believe it was the wrong way. I do not agree with you on
Well, so I guess to reframe, or a follow-up question would be:
this.
do, do you think that Web3 gaming could have, started in a different way? Because if you look at, for example, how Web3 gaming started, it didn't really start with gaming per se, right? Or people trying to create games per se. It started with, um, people trying to make money, and that was like the primary objective. So the way the mechanisms were being built was that, okay, come play our game and you stand a chance of earning, to an extent where even the joy of creating gaming wasn't really what the builders or the developers were looking at. They were more interested in, okay, how do you play a game and then how do you earn, right? And so as a result of that, we had so much mess within the gaming space in terms of applying Web3 to gaming. And it feels like we had to go back and restart the whole thing and say, okay, right now we are putting the game at the center, and then probably like the gameonomics or whatever economics we build into the game will come later. But we want to create a game that you can play and enjoy, right? Before we introduce any kind of incentive mechanism, whatever. So I guess that was, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, I do agree with you in that. Oh, again, you're the OG here, right? I literally met you at the beginning of my crypto journey. So, and you've been there way longer. So, you see, you have like more insight into, like how they started. But, from what I've seen, no, I do agree with you. But it's like most of Web3 right now, again, because we can say we're relatively earning, most people are here for the finances. Yeah, the technology, this is a conversation I think I've had before. It's like we came here for the money, we stayed for the people. We came here for the money, we stayed for the technology. And this is in a regard, everything you're doing it to make money. Yeah. Even while I'm building game, you're talking about, yeah, we send around game, but it's money. So yeah, people might have had, um, a misleading incentive initially, or like maybe the wrong incentive. But again, like I still say, we still have to respect the history, because without that part, we're not going to be talking of Web3 gaming right now. So it's like, yes, it started with people, greed, which is one of the drivers of human invention in general. So yes, but this is the catalyst that brought Web3 gaming to where it is today. So I will still say yes, you're right that it was over financialized initially, and then took away the joy of gaming, right? But also the infrastructure was not ready yet. So it's like they did what they could have done, because there's no way you could build like complex game at that point in time. Like think about like Call of Duty, or think about most games that are popular today. I don't think, and I am very sure that we couldn't have built it on like the previous technology. So it's what they had that they played with, and they made the most out of it and made money from it. So
I see.
it started it.
So I guess that's a reasonable explanation. So how would you explain Web3 gaming to someone who is only familiar with traditional video games?
Um, I will use an analogy of like unstoppable gaming. So Web3 technology, yeah, we know it's immutable ledger, and sometimes we can, equate web blockchain. Let's remove the buzzword of Web3 and say blockchain games, with like blockchain itself as a database, right? So it's like I used to play games while growing up that I really, really loved playing, yeah, and sometime happened and I cannot play the games because maybe the company that was running the game decided that okay, this game we don't want to support it anymore, or whatever reason, the game just goes down. We have no say over it as a user, right? And with Web3 games, it's like unstoppable. It's a contract. When it's deployed, it's deployed. Nobody can go stop it. So it's like, even if the people that are managing this game say, okay, I'm tired of it, the game doesn't essentially stop working. The game will still be there. So these games that I loved playing as a kid, if it was built as a Web3 game, will definitely still be here today. And I can have still played it. And again, it still brings it about, like, immutable records where I can use it as a bragging right. Like, I play Think Decade today, Mancala, and I definitely beat the hell out of him now. Kidding. But you know what I mean? In like 200 years to come, I would have proved that, I did that. Or
Okay.
my grandkids in this case would have proved that, my grandfather was really good at this game and even has a proof of this, which is one thing where I'm going to dive it back to Africa. We are lacking proper record management, right? So it's like there's a lot of things that we could have today if we had kept record, and things would have been still good. But we do things with word of mouth. But in this case, just bringing this technology that can be applied beyond gaming. I know gaming is something that is thriving right now, but it's like it's used to push the edge of technology and see what can be done.
Mm.
So again, I think I've been going so much. I'm going to pass the mic back to you.
No, I mean you are right on track. You mentioned Mancala, so could you briefly talk to us what Mancala is?
Okay, thank you. Mancala is a game that I'm working on currently on Starknet. So we can think it's a turn-based strategy board game. I don't know if that's a mouthful, but essentially it's a game where you have like a board, physical board, you put it there, and then you play against another player. Right now, so I decided that okay, this is African tradition. The game started originally from Africa. It's like thousands of years ago, or 1,000+ years ago. And I'm like, we can look at this traditional thing and look at this cutting edge technology, and we can try to marry like innovation plus tradition and like bring it on chain. So yeah, I decided to build this turn-based strategy board game on Starknet, and for personally to learn like on-chain gaming, because this was my first time also like building a game on chain, right? Or been looking at like DeFi applications, but not more of like the gaming aspect, because like you said, the technology or the game, it didn't interest me initially, because I'm like, yeah, this is not like compared to like real games, but now we have technology to push it to that level.
So yes, so I know you are like I said, you are a relentless developer, and you like to explore a lot. So I'm wondering, um, how did you get into building Web3 games? Because the last time we spoke, like you were working on something different, like something completely different, right? And so yes, I was a bit surprised when you said, "Wow, think the kid, I'm building a game, an on-chain game." I was like, "Wow, how did we move from here to like to there?" And so I'm curious, what inspired you to to build this?
um when I first got into Starknet again, I got in through like a technology called Orion. It's the intersection between machine learning and blockchain. It allows you to do validity machine learning. What it means is like proof of machine learning inference, which was like a very interesting thing. But then I just sat down and looked at a trend on Starknet and like what are people building, right? And I see that like gaming is taking a trend, and as a curious person, I'm like, let me look at this technology and see what is going on. So they have a gaming engine on Starknet that makes it easy to build games. It's called Dojo. So I took a look at it, and in like, you could literally build a simple game in like 15 minutes to um, let's say an hour, right? So I'm like, okay, this sounds like an interesting thing. So I played with it, and I mean, Starknet has a couple of programs to incentivize like building on-chain games. So I looked at that, and I spoke to a couple of people in the ecosystem, and they're like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna support you if you want to build this build this. And I like, I want to learn on-chain gaming. This is a good thing to, again, the African culture on-chain. So I'm like, I might as well just learn this. So I did it as like just a practice. I didn't intend to like go long term like doing this. So it was like practicing this, met a couple of friends. Some of them we work together in Bankless, right? Like you're probably familiar with Israel Rex. This is it used to be like a developer design guild coordinator in Bankless.
Yeah.
Um, Bankless down.
Yeah.
So again, so we just kind of like brainstorm and it, through some interfaces for that. And I'm like, okay, I might as well just keep playing around with it. So we just kept playing around with it, and yeah, this is it today. We got a little grant to work on it, and
Okay.
just just keep pushing it.
Wow. Wow. I was having a conversation with someone where, the conversation was like, we were looking at the African ecosystem, like Web3 ecosystem, and, how currently the predominant narrative for builders is that, build something that makes impact or build for impact. That narrative is very persistent. So, I was trying to take a contrarian opinion. I was like, for me, I don't really um, subscribe to, that like that mantra that, by hook or crook, builders should be confined to, just focusing on impacts. And the reason why I was saying that is that I felt that, builders should be left alone to explore. Like, number one, build for fun. Number two, build because you want to build. Number three, build because you just you are inspired to build something or experiment on something. Build that way. And so I think that some of the like really interesting stuff or some of the core technologies that we have today is as a result of developers having fun or just trying to experiment on something, right? And then it turns out, okay, this thing is very innovative and it's working, and a lot of people are using it, and it becomes a cultural thing. And so I think it's very interesting that you mentioned um, that this was a bit experimental and you just like trying to play around and see how on-chain gaming development would look like. But why is your first experiment Mancala? Mancala is like Africa specific, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is why my my first experience was Mancala, because again, I see. Okay, this is probably maybe a bit. It's not controversial. It's like I see Africans come on like and are building. Oh, I think Africans are really talented, right? They build stuff, but we're not building things like that is cultural, that like speaks our own story. We're looking at everybody else stuff and just doing it, which is not bad, but it's like we are omitting our own culture. We are omitting like something that we can say this is like done from Africa, which again, I thought about this like, okay, I care about African history, yeah, and I'm like, this probably is not the most sophisticated game because I've seen RPG games, I've seen so many different types of games on chain, but I was looking at the historical value of this game. This is probably one of the first board games that ever existed because thousands of years. I'm like, if I could, bring this culture on chain, it's something that, with all the benefits of having things on chain, is something that will be there for like the long term. And this is something that I can pass on to my kid and like, hey, you know what, this is our culture but back then, and it's there because this is another problem with Africa where we are losing some of our cultural records because yeah, we're not keeping proper record. And I'm like, this is a very good technology for record keeping. That's blockchain in general. So yeah, I might just look at the historical value and all this and just play with it. And it's at that time seemed like a very easy thing to use to learn on-chain development. Because if I, as a first-time builder of like on-chain games, if I go pick up like a RPG game, I don't really have like enough background on gaming in general. I'm probably gonna struggle. I'm like, this game is simple enough to be able to use to learn, but also as historical significance. So I might as well build it and like I inspire more of my friends to build because again, this is something I like about Starknet ecosystem. They encourage innovation, they encourage experimenting with things, and there's that support system in there. So it's like, yeah, I've not seen a lot of Africans building like product from scratch. So why not do that? And then, see right now I'm talking to you about it. I still had just before this call had a conversation, like a podcast similar to this, with Starknet Africa. We're talking about Mancala. I think, this, and I've seen a lot of other people reach out to me that, oh, yeah, I'm curious about this. I want to, see how I can also build it. So, yeah, that's why I picked it because of the historical significance. And I think it might also inspire other people in a way. And yeah, I wouldn't go further.
From the player's perspective, right, or a Web3 gamer's perspective, I think this is unique. Um, but if you are in Africa, this is also very, I think, inspiring and also quite familiar because, like you said, it's a very common game in Africa, which spans across the continent. You call it Mancala in Nigeria, right? When you come to Ghana, it's called Owari. And
Actually, we call it Ayo
Ayo,
in
okay.
Nigeria. Oh well, I wouldn't even say Ayo because I've spoken to a couple of people from different. There's so many variants in
Yes.
Yoruba space in Nigeria. They call it Ayo.
Mhm.
My friend that's from the eastern part said it's a different name. You're telling me it's Oware in Ghana. So
Yes.
yeah.
It and even the Owari is it's one of the popular local languages in Ghana, right? That's the name. That's the Ashanti, the Twi language. Sorry, the Twi language. So it's called Owari in Twi. Now, if you move to the northern part of Ghana, you have different names for it, but then it's the same game and it's played. The funny thing is that I had the game, the board. I literally had it in yeah, at my place, and my sisters came and took it away because they wanted to play it at home. Right? So it's a very common game that I feel like it will act as a very good onboarding game for a lot of everyday Africans to play games on chain. And I feel like it's very important because if you look at the Web3 gaming space currently, I don't think there is anything that speaks to the African audience, right? A lot of the games are games that are built by people in different cultures, which again, if you think of this, like you say, a lot of the things that we do on the blockchain when it comes to like gaming and all of that, it's a bit of a codification of your culture on chain, right? And so Mancala has its dynamics, which again originate from the African culture, and people who are interested to play it is a very good way for them to learn a little bit about their culture and the game mechanics. And so if you look at the other games, like I am saying, there are games that are built by other people, and they codify their culture into them, and so you have people playing it all over the world and having exposure to these cultures, and so it's very good that we now have builders who are now building games that have their origins in or from Africa. So I'm really excited to actually test the game out. And I know that if there's going to be like a ranking or a competitive aspect of the game, this is a game that I know I will do very well because I'm used to it. So
Okay, this will be interesting because yes, I'm working on like the competitive aspect, but I wanted to finish the gameplay first. We finished writing the contract. The clients, so we still like haven't a work in progress on the infrastructure part. So we have like this GraphQL server. Again, I'm not going to go too technical, yeah.
yeah.
But it's like the game should be ready very soon, and then I can start working on the competitive part because it's like I've drawn inspiration from other games on Starknet because there's a lot of like people building on chain games on Starknet because it's like a trend now. But I see a lot of like a way to bring competitiveness onto this space. And this is like maybe potentially, people can look at it as like, a chess from Africa. But I mean, it's not chess, obviously, but we can get to that point where, we can still spread our own cultural thing to a good, decent degree if we integrate innovation to it. And that's what I'm all here for.
So, could you maybe briefly explain the game mechanics?
Interesting. Since you play the game a lot, can you give me a bit of like what it is in your own end, and I would kind of like compare it.
Oh, okay. So if you so the way it works is that, like you've explained, it's basically a strategy. It's a strategy game, and the way it works is that you have the players. So the game requires an or a board. Like I've said, it's a board, and you have what they call the seed, right? So the game requires 48 seeds. So a typical wire board has two straight rows of 6 pits, and they are called houses. So the board, we have one here, we have one here. So you have the 6 pits. So 1, 2, 3, 6, and then you have one here, one large, like the score house at each side, right? I'm trying to graphically explain the board first, and the way it's yeah. So each player, right? Each player controls the 6 houses on their side of the board, and so and the score house on their end, right? So the game begins with 4 seed in each of the 12 smaller houses. So you sow the seed. So it's like you start off with 4 seed in each of the pits. So 6 and 6. So that's 12. And then you sow the seed. So you players takes 10 moving the seed. So you fetch, you fetch, and then you'll be putting it in each of the pits. And then once you land on a pit, if there is the seeds in that pit, you pick it again, and you go around once more. So you keep going till you land on an empty pit. Now, once you land on an empty pit, and remember you started with the 4 seats, right? So when any of the pit holds 4 of the seats, you've won. Like you have that. You pick it and you put it in the house. That's the big hole there. So that's how you do it. So at the end of the day, the one with the highest number of seeds wins. Did I do well with the explanation or the mechanism?
Yeah, you did very well. See, you did very well, which is amazing. Like for like, see, this is something that is saying is relatable. I you even explained it without me even bringing
Yeah.
my own perspective. Yeah, but yeah, the objective of the game is to have the most seed at the end of the game. Yes, like you just mentioned, it starts with 48 seeds, and then everybody has 4, 4, 4. And you have 2 rows, so one player controls his own row, the other player controls his own row, and you take turns playing anti-clockwise, right? So you start with 4 seeds. You can put from anyone in your own space, and then you go around. And in this sense, that's like when you end the game turn, and it's in your own seed, and you put the last seed. We call it seed, and then pits, right? The two capturing board you mentioned, we call them Mancala. We call
Okay.
the capturing board, right?
Okay.
So once you put your seed at your own side, and it was an empty pit, and you put your last seed there, it becomes a capturing seed. You can use capture your opponent's seed and put it in your own Mancala, and you keep playing turn by turn. And when the game turn ends, and there's no CD left in either of the player's row, right? The game ends essentially, and then you can capture all the seeds in the last place and put in their own color, and then you calculate it. The person with the highest seed wins the game. And again, when I was doing my research on the benefit of this too, it's like it helps, like your observation skill, because you're trying to anticipate your opponent move. So you're literally observing. It helps in a bit with your memory, because you still have to do some, memorization as you get better in the game. So it has its own unique benefits there. But yeah, we just kind of like explain the game mechanics, like how it works. But see, you did a very good job without
Thank
me
you.
even having to like even explain the game. This is how good this game is. Like in the African culture, it's like
Yeah.
games that people can relate to. I
Hmm.
was talking to my father. He said he played this game when he was like a child.
Yeah.
In pits, he had to dig holes in the ground to play the game, and this is like now we're bringing it on chain. And this body we're talking about, we're abstracting it, and it's like it's now in a digital space. I mean, we're not the first person to build Mancala on the digital space, but we're just leveraging cutting edge technology, and like now we can build it better, more transparently, more securely. I know again, this is just the first game to learn, but I think it's there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from this, and we can apply to like different areas. Like we continue innovating on chain games and like just experimenting with things.
Yeah, I think you might not be the first person to bring it digitally, right? Or to have a digital version of it.
Mhm.
But I sure know you are the first person to put it on chain. So you have that
On Starknet.
on
On
Starknet.
this, on this scale. But yeah, we just keep pushing, and we'll see,
Mhm.
how much we can, bring this culture on
Mhm.
chain, and then get people. And then for my even experiment, for my research, I found out like there are organizations in some countries in the West, like even in the UK, there is an organization or a club that play this competitively, which is quite interesting. They even set the standards for the games and all this stuff. I'm looking at like discussing with them and seeing, yeah, if there's a potential of like collaboration in this regards.
Yeah, I'm optimistic on that. Definitely. All right. And so, could you share briefly, building on Starknet, um, what are some of the challenges that you have had to face whilst you try to build out this game on Starknet?
Okay. So one of the challenges in building on Stacknet is that you have to learn a new language, right? So it's like, yes, they're optimizing for performance, which is long term is a good thing, right? Short term, it's difficult to learn a new language. Like I want to do stuff, I have to have a very solid reason why I want to learn a new language. Like, would I waste my time learning a new language that's only relevant to a niche space? So it's like, and it's not the most programming, right? It's like compared to like Python, compared to even Solidity. Solidity is quite easier, compared to like Cairo. So it's like, why go learn a bit relatively more difficult language for a very small blockchain, because it's still relatively new, right? Even though it's like, I think it has over a billion TVL right now, and the Stackware ecosystem has processed over $1 trillion worth of transaction. But compared to like other blockchains, it just came out. Literally the language that we're using today to program is 1 years old. Yeah, so it's like, because it's new, there's a lot of like barriers that like learning it is, it's not that easy. But well, it's better today, yes. But like when I first started, there were just like not enough resource. Trying to convince my friends to work with me is like, you're building this alone because you're learning a new language that nobody is really interested in learning. uh, so that was one challenge. But the beautiful thing about it is that it makes you better, right? Because you have to actually put your boots down, and then once you are able to answer the question of why learn a DSL, it becomes easier. I'm just going to probably chip into it. It's like Stacknet Cairo language is the first turning complete language, and like you can build a high level, like write an high level program that is provable. If you write your language in Rust, in Python, in Solidity, it's not generating a proof of inference. It's not generating a proof, and this is the beauty of the what makes it unique to scaling Ethereum, because how Ethereum works right now is that they have a block producer that produce a block, and then there is like verifiers that have to rerun the computation, which is resource intensive to verify this stuff. Um, on Starknet, you just have to run it once and then you can verify it everywhere. So it just makes that's what reduce the cost of computation. But I'm not going to go into this. I think I'm already going in a tangent.
Yeah.
You can continue.
No, like I think it's very interesting, right? But then you you have this challenge, and in a way you are overcoming it, and in a very interesting twist you are creating content to help developers who want to, to learn this. And so could you talk to us about your education program?
Yeah, so Starknet has this initiative called Basecamp, and this I'm a product of Basecamp. So I took Basecamp 8 and 9. I graduated as a cum laude graduate there, um, and I thought, what better way to learn or get better than teach, right? So I reached out to my instructor and I was like, "Hey, man, I would love to teach this." And he said, okay, I will provide you resource and any way I can help. So they provided me like a couple of like slides, literally almost like the roadmap on how I can teach it, right? So I started a base camp myself. I have about 20 plus students, like learning Cairo for me. It's like teaching these languages also helped me like find unique things. So it's when I'm talking about these challenges that I face now, it's easier because I'm not doing it alone, right? So it's like teaching people this technology helps me learn better, but also I can see the next generation of people that are going to be building, make friends in that level. I've mentored there's a guy I've been mentoring since he was like 16 years old. He's 18 years old now, and now he knows Cairo. I mean, not like really advanced, but it's like he can write contract in Cairo. We can talk about this together. So I like that part in like teaching. I make friends and also like learn better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are some games on Starknet currently that you enjoy playing?
Loot Survivor is a big game on Starknet. It's like an arcade game. I don't know if you're like a big arcade fan, but like I literally have an arcade close to my house where you go, you buy tickets and you play this game. So Loot Survivor brought that concept onto Starknet. So that part. Then there's Influence. It's a relatively new game, but it's like an space exploration game where you recruit a crew and you're like literally exploring asteroids. So it's set in like a period where like the Earth is inhabitable and people need to go find different habitable ecosystem, and people are living on asteroids in this case. So you have to like gather your resource, and then they have a marketplace where you can trade your resource, and then you can collaborate, form allies. You can collaborate with friends. You build your own ecosystem, and like you do a couple of things, and then you can go split space exploration, so you can go to other asteroid and find resource there. You could refine it. There's a refinery where you can refine stuff. I think about it when I'm playing that game as like this is relatable to like real life. You form allies and you do stuff. So I enjoy playing that game, and I'm in a gaming DAO, so I have my own allies where we play together, and we try to collaborate together, coordinate. Someone as a refinery, I maybe have like a warehouse where you can store your goods, and then if I need more resource, I can reach out to my friend, get this resource and like build stuff. It teaches a bit of collaboration in that regards. And then there's a marketplace where you can sell your stuff, which interesting enough. But yeah, that's the game. There's so many other games that are emerging on Starknet. Like Ethernet, there's like Tailweaver, there's Mancala for sure. There's I'm probably not going to be able to give you everything on top of my head, but there's like a large ecosystem of games being worked on. There's this DAO called Biblio DAO, that's helps coordinate game developers um, on there. So when you get there, you're going to like see a lot more games that are being built on there, and some of them or a lot of them are open source, so you can just go there and like just get involved as a developer. Um, but yeah, I think if you want to explore games on Starknet, maybe start with Loot Survivor, start with Influence, and yeah, thank me later.
When would when are you likely to launch Mancala, or when should we expect it?
um, so I do have an MVP that I've been, playing around and like testing with. I'm waiting to launch on Sepolia because Starknet has this thing called, or they have this infrastructure called um, cartridge controller that helps like zero in with like native account abstraction, but it just helps user onboarding more seamless. So I'm waiting for that infrastructure to be ready to be deployed on Sepolia, which interesting love on Monday is when Starknet upgrades to 0.13.2, which would allow us to be able to deploy on testnet. So I would try as much as possible to get testnets to a stable place next week. I can literally invite you to play with me on that part. And then the mainnet release of Starknet like 0.7.3 will be on the 28th. So optimistically, by next ending of August or September, you should be able to play the game in beta.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to play Mancala. Um, hope you are a worthy opponent, sir.
Hope you're a worthy opponent. I am intending to like be the top number one in this game later, but it's not good. And if you try to beat me, place by place, I'll kick you out. I'm kidding. So
Wait,
this is the other thing, right?
yeah,
Again, it's a permissionless system. I cannot essentially kick you out of the game because
yeah, the
it's
game.
built on the blockchain.
Yeah,
Everybody can verify the contracts that is on there, and if there's something malicious, you can always be like, "Hey, man, this is not right." And if I don't listen, you can fork it. It's open source, and then someone else can build a solution that is a better mine. So it makes or keeps one player or one builder a bit more honest than like the centralized entities that you just have to listen to what they say. I mean, there's always a bit a pro and con in it, right? But yeah,
what
this is
three
where I'm at
things?
right now.
Yeah, what three things excite you about the future of Web3 gaming?
Starknet. um, Again, because you can do more computation on it, right?
Okay.
So when I say that, it's like this computation scales exponentially. So in the future, we would see like really sophisticated games like Call of Duty, potentially on chain because we have that technology to allow that. Then imagine real asset ownership, right? Because now I'm playing this game. Maybe I have to buy like this weapon that's it's quite expensive, and if I buy it, it's not my own because I really cannot share with my friend. Well, true ownership, on chain game, I can buy this weapon that I don't play this game every day. Maybe I play on Tuesday, and my friend wants to play on Friday. I can literally just rent it out to my friend, and he uses it on that game. So it's like that true ownership is important. But again, number one answer is Starknet because of the scaling that it brings, um, and then the session keys because again, I think it's not unique to Starknet, right? Where account abstraction is coming, or it's already here on even like Ethereum, but with the current infrastructure that Starknet has, that enables you to like do this like native account abstraction and paymasters. We can totally abstract the Web3 experience away from the users, so they don't need to worry even about paying gas fee to even play the game in the future. I'm thinking about having a game pass that allows them to play a limited amount of times or X amount of time, depending. And there's like layer 3 solutions. Starknet is working on this thing called Sire, where you can have like shard execution. I'm not going to bother you about it, but you're familiar with like layer 3
Yeah.
solution. So I could build a layer 3 or app chain where I allow my users to play games without worrying about like the essential thing that bothers Web3. Unlike I don't want to be signing transaction every time I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
You don't have that there, and you're not even spending as much money playing the game because you can have a whole game session for one transaction because Starknet already now allows that. Well, not already, but there's the Sire covenant that allows that. So you can play a whole game, different transactions, clack, 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 and it all bundles into one transaction. and so it makes it way cheaper, right? So the cost reduction, the scaling, and one more thing is the asset ownership, or just like autonomous
Yeah.
compounding. It's what
To
I'm really, really
to be
excited
able
about.
to own in-game asset for real, for real. Like this has been one of the exciting things since the inception of Web3 gaming, and it's been like a conversation over and over and over again. And we are yet to see it like really executed in a very good way, right? Like well implemented. That works cross chain and everywhere. And so yeah, I guess we would see about that. All right, and so just wrapping up, um, what are some hobbies that you have or do outside of Web3?
So this is essential to touch grass. No of this. No, I'm kidding. I actually have traveled a lot lately, and well, probably thanks to Web3. This is relatively new because I've mostly been indoor, like on my computer. So I'm just picking up other hobbies, and then I play Fortnite.
Okay.
So I play games on Game Pass.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
I have a couple of friends that play with.
Okay, that's it's always great to have something that takes you away or a little bit away from Web3, because the space is quite chaotic, right? And so it's always good to have something um, that's able to install insanity back. So it's all good. Any final thoughts,
And yeah,
remarks? Yeah.
no, this is that is like thing. When I first got into Web3, right? I was like, I had no other hobbies. I This was the only thing I was interested in, and it's kind of like didn't help socially or like my friends. It was not good. Now I'm trying to find balance, and I think everybody needs to touch grass often, and not think that Web3 is like the world revolves around Web3. There's literally a lot of other, things that we can learn from and just make ourselves more balanced and grounded. So yeah, that part.
Totally agree.
But yeah,
Any final words or final thoughts you'd like to share?
any final words?
Yeah.
Go build on Starknet. It's amazing technology. I know there's a room for everything, right? I love like the diversity in crypto. When I say that, there's like everybody's building an L2 now, which is quite interesting. I think maybe you should build if there's a use case for it. Don't mind me, I live beside the train station, so it's like yeah. But no, I think people should just explore more on Starknet because this technology is amazing, but most people have not fully, wrapped a head around it. So yeah, just play around more with Starknet is my own getaway. I will be releasing courses around like different things on there. Although it's developer focused for now, but I intend to like figure out a way to balance it where every other person that's not a developer can also enjoy, you know, and learn more about the benefit of what is to come here.
All right. Awesome. 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 Well, there you have it, everyone. Tony Stark, Sudo High. Wait. You know Tony Stark.
His name
These
is
two.
Okai to go Tony Stark. So I'm fully doxed now, I guess, because
Okay.
when I first got into Web3, I used to go by Tony Stark, and that's
Yeah.
where you met me, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had their own, alias then.
Yeah.
Yours is Sting Decade, it's still Pink Decade. I see
Yeah.
you now using your name too, so
Hmm.
I just use my name right now, Okai. So it's Okai, aka Tony Stark. If I'm from the Bankless days,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
That was that. Those days were good times. Um, and so yeah, remember to all of our listeners, remember none of what we share is financial advice. Make sure you always do your own research. Very, very important. Stay safe out there. Until the next one, peace out.